Welcome back to the program. When we touch base with the Trinidad and Tobago Bureau of Standards, it's always a great conversation, and of course they are putting forward a new program, a new initiative, and we want to give some details to Trinidad and Tobago, and they're coming with some company this morning. So let me introduce our representative from the Trinidad and Tobago Bureau of Standards firstly, Nadita Ramachala. She joins us on the Zoom line. She is the manager of the Standardization Division at the TTBS. And joining her this morning, Dr. Axel Kravatzky. He is the chairman of Syntegra Change Architects Limited. And they're here this morning to talk about a great initiative, something that will only augur well for all business interests and industry in Trinidad and Tobago. It's something called the ISO, the International Standard ISO. Good morning, of course, guests, welcome, and great to have you on the Morning Brew. Nadita and Dr. Axel, welcome.
Morning, thank you.
Let me start, of course, with, well, of course, Doc, I know you'll allow me to start with the lady first, yes? And let me just head to the Bureau immediately to find out about this new initiative, the International Standard ISO. Tell me some more.
The Trinidad and Tobago Bureau of Standards, we're responsible for coordinating international standardization and the input from the national stakeholders so that we can develop international standards that reflect the needs of Trinidad and Tobago. So we are part of the International Organization for Standardization, ISO for short, and they have embarked on a brand new international standard for governance of organizations. So TTBS has been instrumental in participating at the international level, and we would have worked with stakeholders like Dr. Kravatzky and members of a national mirror committee to assist in the development of this international standard. And as it happens, we also played a leadership role. So Dr. Kravatzky would have been the vice chair, and he's the vice chair of the ISO TC, or Technical Committee, responsible for governance of organizations.
Excellent. Thanks a lot there for the overview. Let me bring Dr. Axel into the conversation. Now, you come with a wealth of experience, years of experience in the sector in terms of your involvement in corporate governance and strategy, working in the financial sector, state-owned sector. What are the benefits really of really adhering to some of these standards and ensuring that best practices are observed every single time, from your observation and your years being in industry?
Right. So there are three main outcomes and three main benefits that organizations can derive. The first one is that they can be ethical. So the task of a governing body, of a board, is to ensure that the organization is ethical, and that means that it acts in ways that are consistent with the expectations of stakeholders and international norms. The second big advantage is that it enables boards to be responsible, right? So, and that means it's using all the different capitals, all the different resources, human, social, natural capital, in responsible ways to generate value. And the third one is the one that people most quickly think about, is that it is actually helping organizations to perform at a higher level. So you can perform at a higher level, produce more services, goods at a higher quality, at a reduced cost, in a timely manner, if you govern well. Because to govern means to direct, to oversee, and to account for an organization to fulfill its defined purpose.
Well said. This can only go well for productivity across the board. I want to find out here from Nadita, as we take it back to the Bureau of Standards. Was the consultation, national consultation, when this particular policy was being drafted in terms of its development? Was there national input?
Definitely. So over what we call the inquiry period for the draft international standard, and this is the period where all the member countries within the ISO framework can contribute and provide comments. We would have had 6 webinars, and of course virtually, to allow stakeholders to provide direct feedback. So working with our National Mirror Committee, comprising experts from the University of the West Indies, SMEs, some of our key ministries, Ministry of Public Administration, NGOs, some of the business associations, and as well as management consultants, we were able to get direct feedback, but also sensitize the stakeholders at the national level as to the proposed requirements. And the public inquiry period is really when stakeholders at all levels from all the member states can submit comments to ISO so that the technical committee that Dr. Kravatzky is the vice chair of can review those comments and take into account, the perspectives of developing countries like Trinidad and Tobago. So definitely we had some consultations, and as we move to adopt the international standard as a national standard, we will be doing some stakeholder engagements again in January 2022 to allow the national stakeholders to again give that national feedback as we make this international standard a national standard for our national good, governing well, enabling improved efficiency, ethical behavior, etc.
Well said, and I'm happy to know that the conversation will continue into early next year. I want to bring Dr. Kravatzky back into the conversation and find out from you, how can stakeholders hold on to this standard, access the standard, get more intimate details?
Yeah, so the place to go is the Trinidad and Tobago Bureau of Standards website, and there you can find the standard. And there's also on the international website, on the ISO website, you can also have further information on the standard. And there are webinars and materials available for people to familiarize themselves with the standard. And so there are a number of avenues, and how do you get? Yeah.
Well said. Thank you so much. Nadita, I want to ask you, for those looking on this morning, they always hear about the TNT Bureau of Standards. Tell me, what else, other than drafting policy and creating standards, what else do you all do there? For those who have no idea what happens within the walls of the Bureau of Standards, if you could break it down for us in a nutshell. What's the role and function really, and what do you all do?
So TTBS is one of the main institutions in what we call the National Quality Infrastructure. As part of the National Quality Infrastructure, we're responsible for establishing standards, and this is at the national, regional, and international level. We are also responsible for the enforcement of our compulsory standards. And when standards are compulsory, it means that these are effectively pieces of legislation, or what we call technical regulations. So all manufacturers and importers would have to comply with these requirements. So we actually have a very large implementation division, which is essentially a number of inspectors that will ensure products meet quality, safety, health, environmental parameters established in standards. And to support this entire quality system for improved competitiveness to facilitate trade, we also have a number of testing labs, so electrical, mechanical, chemical products, fiber, textiles. And we are supported by our metrology division, and they have their own separate piece of legislation. It's called the Metrology Act, but it essentially means that there has to be accurate measurements at different levels. For example, we have metrology and measurement systems for fuel dispensers to ensure that when you purchase fuel that you get the accurate amount. And we have other rules, for example, ensuring that laboratories meet the appropriate requirements for operation, proper diagnosis, accurate results. So in short, TTBS plays a vital role in supporting the economic development of the country, but also in ensuring that we meet our sustainable development goals. So TTBS works with a number of stakeholders like our national merit committees, different ministries, NGOs to set standards and also promote and enforce the standards, as well as build the requisite quality systems across different industries and sectors. Because what we want to do is ensure that our industry can compete on a level playing field, which is why we participate in international and regional standardization. So we also have a significant role in ensuring that there's trade, free trade and flowing trade across our CARICOM region as well.
Nadita, listen, well said. I can see why you are indeed one of the spokespersons from the Bureau. You said it so well. You break it down so amazing for the audience, and we want to thank you for coming on this morning. Nadita Ramachala, the manager of the Standardization Division, and of course, Dr. Axel Kravatzky, chairman of the Syntegra Change Architects Limited. Thank you so much, guys, and keep us posted with the great work. And yes, we will maintain the standard. The standard must be high, a high standard at all times.
Definitely.
All the best, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
For sure. We take a break. We come back. Birthday brew, something to think about, and your social media details. Stick around.